So I just want to quickly touch on a few core mechanics within the game that I didn't realize the importance of until I'd already gotten quite a bit into the story. I think may be helpful to those that are interested in playing or maybe are currently playing and don't quite understand how the mechanics work themselves. Um, Please note that I'm going to be as spoiler free as possible with the story. That's important to note because the story is an absolutely huge part of the game. Like I'd say probably between 60 and 80% of the game is just story, and that's not a bad thing in this case because my God, is it a great story. But let's go ahead and touch on the main topics, which are going to be the karma system, combat, and catching Digimon first and foremost, as well as a couple little tidbits here and there. So here we go. So first and probably most important is the karma system. Now, I'm sure you know that if you've done any research on this game at all, that there's an actions have consequences type of style to the story. There are multiple ending options, and how the game progresses as you play is also dictated by the decisions you make. This is influenced by the karma system as you see here. Red choices are moral, that's aligned to the vaccine type Digimon. Yellow choices are wrathful, and that's aligned to the virus type. And green choices are harmonious or harmony, and that's tied to the data type. That represents more of the balanced options. As you make decisions in the game, this will affect your morality, which will affect as how the game progresses, as well as how Agumon can digivolve. Now, because I'm going through a harmonious playthrough right now, I'm picking mostly harmony-based options. My Agumon is going through the lower data route, the harmonious route, and he'll continue that way unless I make a drastic change in my moral decisions or my karma decisions. If I were to suddenly become much more moral, I would branch off into the vaccine branch, or I would go into virus evolutions if I were to become more wrathful in my decisions. Whenever you're making these decisions, you'll know when one of these contextual decisions pops up because your decision making option will light up colors. For example, as you can see, the upper option here is wrathful, the left option is moral, it's red, and then the right option is going to be harmonious because it's green. These options never leave this position. The right option will always be harmonious, the upper option will always be wrathful, and the left option will always be moral, even if the text itself doesn't really seem like it matches up. Like the harmonious option seems more moral than the moral option right here, though as you see, my morality is what increased. Meanwhile, if I choose the right option, my harmony is increased. And that doesn't change, that format's always there, they don't try to trick you at any point. Now, as for evolution's pretty simple in this game, compared to most Digimon games anyways. There's usually secret requirements for certain evolutions and different things like that, but from what I've seen so far, that's not the case with this game. In order to unlock any champion variation for a Digimon you possess, you just need to get far enough in the game to start collecting a certain slab. Once you get this slab, you can use it to unlock any champion level Digimon. As you progress later in the game, you'll unlock different slabs for ultimates and then megas and so on. And it's a pretty simple system. Once you unlock the one line or one stage of a Digimon, the next stage will appear and you can see what you can evolve into next, and so forth until you unlock all the lines. Partner Digimon that you catch in the field that aren't Agumon or one of the main story Digimon, they cannot de-digivolve. It is permanent. So keep that in mind. If you change your mind and you want to go back, that's too bad. Now, as for combat is much more complex than most Digimon games because you have an overworld map with terrain elements, there's elevation, there are obstacles, sometimes there are even treasure chests way out of the way that you have to go chase down, meaning that whoever's going after that particular treasure chest is out of the fight, basically, until they can get back in, and usually by then the fight's over anyways. As well as just a great level of depth between, what most Digimon games have. There's virus, vaccine, data type Digimon. There are fire, water, earth, wind, dark, light, you name it. They got all of that as well. Those all play into effect. And then the attacks themselves also have different elements too. So you have to consider that. You know, you might have a vaccine fire Digimon that's using a light attack. So different things to consider with that as well. Catching Digimon is simple but annoying. The Digimon that you want to capture, you choose to talk to it, it'll ask you a question, and you answer it. If you answer correctly, you'll gain 1 or 2 affinity points, depending on how correctly you answer the question. And as long as you get at least 3 affinity points, you have a chance to capture it. However, if there is a chance to fail, even if you get all 3 questions perfectly, there's still every bit of chance of failure. So here I got all but 1 chance, and I've got about a 60% chance of catching it, and I managed to. That was good. If I didn't, then he would have gotten flustered and refused to talk to me anymore, and I wouldn't have another shot. I would have to take him out, or either hit the pause button and restart the game, or not the game, restart the battle, and then it can move on from there. Combat beyond that, once you figure out the different elemental advantages and how to work around terrain with different Digimon and things like that, positioning, such as flanking enemies, you know, if you attack an enemy head on, they'll do standard damage, but if you attack from the sides or from behind, you do greatly increased damage. Some Digimon even have passives which boost their damage when they attack enemies from behind even further. So those are different things to consider, and that also works for you too. And enemies will actively try to flank you and attack you from behind or from the side, so you have to consider that when you end your turn, which way you're going to face. All in all, this is an excellent game. If you like Digimon, it's definitely worth getting. If you don't like Digimon, but you like story-centric games, and this is a mature story, by the way. It's not some little kiddie park adventure game. It's not. This isn't Fire Emblem meets Pokemon, basically. There's death involved. They've got aspects of trauma and borderline horror. It seems like it's marketed more towards the people that grew up with Digimon, like people like me. Like, I'm 29 years old. I've been playing this since I was 8 years old. This game seems very much like it was marketed for people like us that kind of grew up with the franchise, rather than trying to pull in new audiences for kids. But if you like story-based games, this is a very heavily story-based game, and the story is so gripping and so good, it's definitely worth giving a shot. I didn't really show any of the story because it's such a key part. I didn't want to spoil anything for anyone that was interested, but it's definitely worth giving it a look if you are interested in playing it. So I appreciate the time you guys took to watch this, and I hope it helped in some small way. Thanks.